All right, we'll get the meeting started. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. Tonight is probably our best turnout ever. We've got 60 registered attendees representing 17 SBE chapters. 16 are non-members, and we sure hope that you would consider joining SBE. You can find information at sbe.org or talk to any chapter chairman. We'll try to keep the Chapter 22 business meeting brief. We want to thank Don Roberts for putting together the presentation for tonight. We'll get to Don shortly. Is Don in here yet?
He's here.
Okay. Well, thank you, Don, for coming out. And other chapters and non-SBE members, please bear with us while we get through our short business meeting. Only Chapter 22 members should make motions, second motions, and vote on motions. And please keep your microphones off unless responding to a question or asking a question. Chapter 22 members, you can keep your mics on during the business meeting. So we'll get going here. And for some reason, it's not changing. There it goes. So meetings from our July meeting, minutes from our July meeting, Vinny. We did not have an August meeting, so minutes from July.
Yes, indeed. Minutes of the meeting from July 21st, 2021. Meeting was called to order at 7:05 by Tom. Tom mentioned the passing of former Chapter 22 Vice Chair Tom Deisinger. The minutes of the June 21st meeting were read. A motion to approve by George Braungard, seconded by Anna Marie. Motion passed. The treasurer's report. The chapter is solvent. The state of New York has finally cashed our payment check for taxes. Motion to approve by Vinny, seconded by Anne Marie, passed. Frequency coordination, nothing to report locally. There was a mention of Audi not putting AM radios in their models any longer. In certification, nothing to report. There was no old business. In new business, the next meeting will be September 22nd. Our presenter will be Don Roberts of Sinclair Broadcast Group, talking about the new Regional Sports Networks Network Operations Center in Atlanta. In national news, elections begin on July 23rd. You should get a unique email with a link to vote. If you did not get one, notify the national office. Well, that ship has sailed. SBE compensation survey is out. Links have been sent to members. In Expo news, plans look good for September 2022. Rooms look adequate, and National has signed off on their room needs. Motion to adjourn at 7:21 by Tom, seconded by George. Motion passed. And our program was Andy Munitz of Sony on the current state of wireless microphones. Any changes, additions, contradictions, obscenities?
Move to approve.
Jim Peck.
Would like to second that?
I'll second it.
George?
Dean.
Oh, Dean.
Sorry.
Okay, we're making motions and seconding. Please state your name so we know who you are. It's kind of hard with all these windows on the screen. All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Nay. Treasurer's report, Gary.
Yeah, well, our financial situation is fairly static. We have no, we're not doing a fall show, so we have no income other than the member dues rebate from the national SBE, and we have no outflow currently, except for the monthly fees that make it possible for us to accept credit card payments. So that's the financial news from here.
Okay. Who would like to make a motion to accept that?
George. Make a motion.
George?
George.
Who would like to second?
Vinny will.
Any? All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Nay. Frequency coordination and certification report, Gary.
Okay, nothing at all in certification. In frequency coordination, I got a call last week for an event unspecified on Irving Place, and the person said he would email me all the details. When he did, well, I should say, I'm not familiar with Irving Place, but as many of you know, the Carrier Dome fronts on Irving Avenue. So I thought, well, Irving Place maybe is a service road. But anyway, the material arrived, and it's actually Irving Place is in New York 10014. So evidently he thought Central New York maybe meant Midtown Manhattan. I don't know. But I told him he needed to get a hold of a frequency coordinator from Chapter 15.
I can understand the confusion. They're very similar.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Don't we have an Irving Place in Utica? I think so. Okay, that's it.
that's it.
Okay. Does anybody have any other old business they'd like to discuss? If not, we'll move on to new business. Future meetings will be virtual until further notice. I don't know, Vinny, if WSTM's ready to have us in person, or if that's
No,
something that might come soon. We don't know, do we?
no one knows.
Okay, so we'll keep doing virtual. I know Nolan's been asking me pretty regularly if we're going to go back to in person. He's kind of anxious to get the vendor tour started, the presentation tour started with chapters 1, 2, 57, 22, and 58. But I told him right now we're virtual, and I will keep arranging meetings unless he wants to do it. I'll keep arranging the presentations. Wednesday, October 20th, 7 p.m. I've got Steve Holmes from Leader Instruments presenting monitoring video, audio, and ancillary data in a hybrid SDI-IP world. So mark that on your calendars, and I hope everybody can join us. Wednesday, November 17th would be the November meeting, and I have a few irons in the fire for that, and we'll keep you posted as soon as we know more. Notes
We would
from-
like to do one.
I'm sorry, what's that, Dean?
Put us on the list for doing,
Sure.
okay?
Here are notes from Jim Ragsdale, our SBE Executive Director. He noted the elections are complete for SBE officers and directors, and there are the results, which you have probably seen in an email from SBE, if you remember. Upcoming webinars, which we're running at the beginning of this too, in more detail, but September 23rd, October 21st, and 28th. And once in a while, they throw in a web extra. So there is one tomorrow, SMT ST 2110 Basics. If you haven't registered yet and you want to participate, you still could get on the SBE website and register, sbe.org. Next exam window is coming up, but it's too late to register for that one. So the next one you can register is the February 4th through 14th certification exam. Submit it by December 31st or you'll be too late. Chapter 22 Expo. The Holiday Inn in Liverpool has changed affiliation finally to Ramada by Wyndham. Our sales rep back at our last show was Kate Berry. She left and then came back and then left again. And we had a new sales rep that was planning our 2022 show. 21 and 22, 21 got canceled. She became general manager and Kate Berry is back as our rep. So it's kind of confusing. I do have a contract from Kate. I have finished reviewing it and comparing it to what we had a couple of years ago for a 2020 show with National. There are very minor differences, and I will get that out to the chapter officers another day or two, and everybody can look it over, make their comments, and I'll get it up to Jim Ragsdale and let him look it over. And if we're okay with it, then we'll sign off on it and have everything locked in for September 28th, September 29th of 2022.
I'll have Imlay look it over too.
Yeah. If you'd like to get involved with planning and implementing our show, please get a hold of me. You can email me, call me. I'm pretty easy to get a hold of.
Walk down the hall.
There is a memorial for Roy Taylor at 10 Pin this weekend, this Saturday at 1 p.m. His family put it together. I believe, Vinny, it's by invitation only. Is that correct?
Yes.
So I am going. Vinny's going. I did get a plaque. It's being made up now. I will pick it up Friday. That they could put up at 10 Pin, or the family can take it with them, however they want to deal with it. But I will take that plaque with me. It's in memory of Roy for all his service to broadcasting into SBE. Roy was our chapter treasurer for more years than I can remember, and he worked with Vinny for a long time, and a lot of you know Roy really well. It's been a year since he passed away, and the family finally decided to do something for him, and a little toast to him at 10 Pin Alley this Saturday. Does anybody else have any new business they'd like to discuss?
I don't speak Chinese.
Nothing? Who would like to make a motion to close the Chapter 22 business meeting? I will. Who would like to second it?
I will. Gary.
Gary? All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Nay. To all attendees, is there anything you'd like to share or discuss with those attending here tonight before our presentation starts? Open mic.
Hey, Tom. It's Ken here from Imagine.
Hi, Ken.
Hello, how are you and how's everybody?
Doing good.
It's been a while.
Yeah.
Hope everyone's well. I just wanted to kind of highlight a little bit about what you said about the training session for the basics on 2110. If anybody's interested in that, I can put the link in the chat, and it does go towards your education credits. Our John Myatt is going to be presenting, so he's a good guy. He's very instrumental in developing the SMPTE 2110 standards and is authoring some of those. So would love to share that with everybody.
Yeah, I didn't sign up for it yet because I wasn't sure what I'd be doing tomorrow, but I hope that the day is free and I can jump in on that. I'll try to register first thing in the morning.
And also just keep me informed about your next show. If it materializes, would love to participate.
Okay, will do. I hope to start getting the word out before the end of this year. Anybody that was already registered for our last show, some decided to let us keep their payment and apply it towards the next show. So we do have a couple booths already set. We do have a sponsorship already. Therefore, I believe that was Gates Air. So yeah, we'll be ramping things up as soon as we get a contract signed.
Okay.
Does anybody else have anything they'd like to talk about? Something-
Forgive me, Tom, this is Palma here.
Yep.
Did you make decisions about the show that I might have missed? I'm sorry.
2022.
For 22. Okay,
Yeah,
thanks.
September.
Okay, got it. I
And
thought, hey, we're going to run into a show here for 21. Well, that's not going to work.
And National will be joining us with their fall meetings.
Oh, awesome. Okay, very good. Thank you.
That's confirmed. Anything else? If not, then I welcome Don Roberts from Sinclair Broadcasting for tonight's presentation. And I'll unshare my screen and let Don take it away. And thank you, Don, for doing this tonight.
Yep, sure thing. I got nothing else to do on whatever night of the week this is. And by the way, this PowerPoint's, the paint is still kind of dry, wet on it, so just so you know. We'll live this together. We'll see how it goes. Okay, bear with me for a minute. I'm having some sort of issues here. Don't know why. Talk amongst yourselves for a minute.
Mumble, mumble, mumble.
What's going on here?
Greg, did you bring enough to share?
No, I gotta share. Hold on. There you go. Yeah.
Can't believe how black it got back at me. It's getting dark early stuff. It's driving me nuts.
You know, say I can share my trip to Seneca Lake this year if any. Just kidding.
That'd be awesome.
It's a great trip.
Yeah.
Greetings, Don.
Hello. All right. Can you see that, everybody?
We can.
Okay. Very good. Let us begin. So I'm going to try my best not to kill everybody with a PowerPoint presentation. So if you like, we can make this interactive, or we can wait to the end and you can ask questions on whatever you like to do. I know a whole bunch of you, so that makes this a little bit easier. So we'll try to keep it kind of lighthearted and upbeat a little bit. So about a year ago, no, about 2 years ago, we, on August 23rd, 2019, we bought from Disney the Fox Regional Sports Networks for a whopping $10.6 billion. Unfortunately, part of that deal for us did not include the about 80,000 square foot network operations center in the Woodlands, Texas. So from a master control and operational perspective, we needed to figure out a way to operate these RSNs. And for those of you that don't know, I mean, the RSNs are regional sports networks that are located all over the country. Here's a horrible map of not so much where they are, but what regions they cover. And there's probably somewhere between 35 and 40,000 live events a year that are produced, including pre and post game shows and other type of programming. But major league sporting events for MLB, NHL, NBA, ACC college. There's MLS soccer in there. There's high school sports that are in there. It's nonstop. There are days when there can be up to, and we're coming up to that period now, there could be up to 20 to 25 live sporting events in a day, spread out across this network of RSNs. So, so for those of you that don't know, think of Sinclair as a big giant conglomerate with thousands of people. But from an engineering perspective, you know, Vinny, Kevin, a bunch of guys that know that Sinclair is a pretty lean operation when it comes to engineering. There's a handful of people that pretty much are responsible for all of it, television stations and now these. So just a little bit about myself. I've worked for Sinclair for 25 years. Obviously, at the time when I started, we owned television stations. So I worked at WHF in Rochester when that station combined operations with WROC. I moved into the corporate engineering world, and I had overseen building out technical operations for news and for all of our television station master controls. And when we started dabbling in the sports arena, no pun intended, I had a conversation with Del Parks, who's my boss. He's been around the industry for 50 years, and just told him I wanted to, not told him, you don't really tell Del anything. I asked him if it would be okay if I changed my focus from TV stations to sports. And at the time, we were just completing a deal with the Chicago Cubs. We'd already owned the tennis channel, and I knew this was on the horizon. So, you know, Del graciously allowed me to kind of change my focus with the company. So that's kind of how I ended up here doing this. So we bought them in August and October. A bunch of us hopped on a Southwest flight to Houston, Texas, and off we went to the Woodlands. Again, the Woodlands is a facility that's been around for probably 12 to 15 years. Fox built it. It's pretty impressive when you see it, but it's old. It's got some old technology, and there are workflows in play there that would just make the hair on the back of your neck stand up. So we met with the Disney folks that operate that. We spent a couple of days going over workflows, technology, how they operated. They spent, like I said, 2 solid days with us, and they went through every single workflow and operation that exists there. What we walked away with, for the most part, was this. This is the operational diagram of what happens at the Woodlands, or what happened at the Woodlands. And I'm not going to go through this line by line because this is a crazy spaghetti drawing. Most of what you see here, unfortunately, down in a lot of these areas is all custom designed software that over time Fox has built and used to operate this whole entire facility. And I remember at some point in that meeting, I'm not going to use the exact words. Those of you who know me will understand what that word would have been that came out of my mouth, but I'll replace it with, I looked at Dell and said, how the hell are we going to do this? Because what happened is, as part of that deal, we only had 2 years to pull this off. And the upper right corner of this slide, there's this Cobra logo that's here. And for those, again, who know Dell's a military historian like probably nobody has met before. So he named this whole project Project Cobra based on this particular event that took place during World War II after D-Day. It has nothing to do with snakes and anything like that, but Dell was very insistent that's what we call it. And it still sticks to this day. Actually, projects for us are typically for behind the scenes stuff. They never really see the light of day. I think this is the first one that ever actually has. So as we walked through there and came out, we had these particular considerations at top of mind. The Department of Justice deadline, we asked them initially for 4 years to be able to build and make operational a facility. They gave us 2. We had to go through a whole bunch of real estate gyrations to search for locations and spaces. We had to understand what technology we wanted to use. We had to understand how to staff it. And more importantly, we had to make a decision rather quickly whether we wanted to do this ourselves or use a service provider. Ultimately, we decided that for the time that we had, we couldn't pull this off. We wouldn't be able to find a place, build it out, and hire an entire staff of people in a 2-year time frame. And then there's the old budget thing. I mean, budgets are budgets, right? I can tell you, without getting very specific about it, my time at Sinclair, this is the largest technical television project that we've ever undertaken. Dollar-wise, size-wise, complexity-wise, we've never done anything like this before. So we really scrambled around for a few months answering all these questions. What we ultimately decided to do, we ended up partnering with Encompass Digital Media in Atlanta. We had already had a small business relationship with them because our marquee sports network for the Cubs operates out of here. And we thought they were the best fit for us. I mean, we looked at other providers and we chose that they would be our best partner. The aerial view on the right is Encompass, I'm sorry, on the left. The building on the smaller building on the bottom there is what Encompass has basically given us to use for this project. It's about 26,000 square feet. And we're the only ones in that building. That used to be, once upon a time, Crawford post-production. The first time we saw it, there were piles of 3/4-inch machines, beta machines, all kinds of junk in that building. There was nothing in there. They were doing nothing with it. So it really turned out to be a good location because it was essentially a greenfield site for us. We quickly got into action with Encompass, with Diversified to do the system integration piece of it, and architects, and then our own internal groups, both real estate and engineering. So this is what the floor plan is pretty much like. There were some minor modifications, but nothing really worth mentioning. What we did is these little rooms that you see all around the edges here, there's 52 of them, and they are little master control pods. I have pictures later, so we can take a look and see what these look like. So during a live event, an operator will go into one of those rooms, get on the phone with the truck, actually, run master control for that live game, and then when the game's over, they come back out. And there is like a multicast, simulcast area, which is on the left-hand center side of this here, that there's 5 operators out there that monitor all of the channels when there's nothing live going on. So there, like tonight, there's probably 6 or 7 games. So 6 and 7 of these rooms are occupied producing those games live. So that's pretty much what goes on in the center piece here, is all of that. Down in the lower right is the central equipment room. There's, I believe, 86 racks in here. What I should go back and say, from a technology perspective, what we ended up deciding here is this facility, top to bottom, is 2110. I Ken mentioned it earlier, getting on the phone with my auditor doing a webinar, but this is the living embodiment of live master control operations in the 2110 world. And without going into details, we could spend hours talking about this. It's not for the faint at heart. I'll just tell you that. So it's way more complex than SDI can ever think about being. The other things that are going on here, there's this room in the bottom left. This is actually 2 rooms now. One is an ingest area with 8 workstations. The other one is, the other piece of it is there's 16 workstations for virtual graphics for games, mostly hockey and basketball, to put advertising like behind home plate, or in actually inserts it into the program chain. So so that's what goes on in there. And then there's some offices and bathrooms and stuff like that. But this is the facility. Like I said, it's about 25,000 square feet. This box off to the right-hand side is all the electrical distribution for the building. There's 2 feeds coming in. There's all the switch gear, UPSs, and everything's in that room. And that just supports this building. So outside here, there's 2.5 megawatt generators. And again, just for this building. So moving on, there were a few surprises that we had. We knew that we had to build a new master control. And we knew that we were going to build 2110. So there's many networking discussions going on about that. Something that we weren't really prepared to do, because the FCC in its infinite way during this exact same period of time decided this would be a good time to do the C-band repack. So what that meant for us is, since these RSNs are distributed via satellite, C-band satellite, we had to replace every IRD out there and every MVPD, DirecTV, everybody you can think about, as well as put in a whole new uplink facility in Atlanta to support that. The IRDs were, there's about 3,500 of them. I'm rounding off. And we had about, I have the timeline coming up in a little bit, but it was about a year from the time we signed a contract with our vendor to turning everything off on the old platform. And in the middle of all that, we had an issue with manufacturing with about 1,500 IRDs that we had to swap around and get fixed. So, nothing ever goes as you expect it to, as we all know. We also had to build this thing called the Sinclair Video Network. And I'll get into a little more detail about that later. But essentially what that is every venue, every major league venue in the country, and all of our 15 RSN studios across the country and Encompass are all connected via fiber. And that's how we move signals around from venues, from production trucks back to Encompass to get on the air. And there's, so that was a unbelievably major undertaking to get that done. And we partnered up with AT&T on the back end of that, as from a networking perspective. Satellite uplink and receiver management, that is that's a very interesting thing that goes on with these RSNs, because if we went back to that map, the RSNs have many teams and many different regions that they provide sports for. And many times there's it could be a basketball and a hockey game on at the same time. And there's a very complex process that happens from programmers at RSNs. And we have a group of 15 people that manage what signals go where. And what this essentially boils down to is that all day long, we're constantly retuning IRDs to different slices of transponders, dependent on what programming that particular head end needs to get at any given point in time. I still don't think I fully understand it after 2 years. I think I have a pretty good grasp of it, but it's crazy. And when we started this with Disney, they had close to 3,000 different switching groups, they're called, to manipulate IRDs. And we whittled that down to right around 300 at this point. I will say that we hired some people that worked at the Woodlands. The group that manages that in particular are the same ones that did it at the Woodlands. Many of them are anyway, because we had no time to understand or figure that out. It's unbelievably crazy. And it's also how Nielsen derives their ratings for these RSNs, because they have to know when a region switches from this feed to the other feed. It's crazy. We also rely heavily on SCUDY 35 and 224 to drive a lot of systems. The 224 primarily for OTT partners, ourselves included, to also make sure that they're getting the right feeds to the right devices at any given point in time. And there's a lot of data, including SCUDY 35, that drives the 224. And then we did build some custom software. We had to, but not, I believe the Woodlands had 36 separate applications they built for various different things. We built one. And made it way more efficient than its predecessor at the Woodlands. So these were the big chunks of what we needed to accomplish. Again, in 2 years. Primary vendors. So Ken Metcalf will appreciate number one. So the core of our whole infrastructure there is based on Imagine Communication, Versios, Nexio recording, STNO routing, orchestration level, SNPs for processing and multi-viewing. So we have 104 Versios there. There's 52 primary channels. There's 52 backup channels. 5 of those can support 4K. And the whole entire facility is based, like I said, it's 2110, but it's 1080p 60 ready to go because we feel that's where sports needs to head. So that's how it's designed. That's how it's built. Arista is the switching fabric for the whole entire backbone of the facility. There's different components to it. There's different networks, but it's all Arista. We chose Telestream and /Tektronix for timing and sync and monitoring. Palo Alto Cisco firewalls. Cinemedia is the vendor we chose for all the satellite stuff. Nevion actually plays a very big role in the SVN, the Sinclair Video Network, both in the trucks and also in Encompass. That's how we're moving our signals around. It's H.264 encapsulated in IP. And there's a product they have called Video iPath, which is a orchestration piece of software that they supply us to talk to all of these encoders and decoders across the network. All the fiber within the building is Belden and some of the racks. I don't know why I put that in there. I just thought it was interesting. Belden made racks. And like I said, AT&T is the backbone for all of the outside networking pieces. Timeline. We could go through this line by line, but basically it started on August 23rd, 2019, and about a week and a half ago we put this online. All these other things happened in the middle. Encompass was very willing to work with us because they started to engage with contractors and architects 3 months before we signed a contract with them. So that was pretty nice on their part. We had, I don't even know how many meetings with Diversified to review and go through design and sign off on certain things. And like anything of this magnitude, things change over time. And they've been great to work with to make those changes. Just to give you some sense from the Diversified and drawing perspective, we're upwards of about 800 pages of drawings at this point for this facility. But if you take a look at the construction time, I mean the amount of work that went on there happened in probably really about 9 months. It was pretty impressive to see how everybody came together. The one thing I didn't mention here, and I meant to, but I forgot, and I will right now, because if you look at this timeline, in February, we went to the Woodlands with Encompass and with some other folks, just so they could see what it was all about. A month later, COVID happened. And we, as a group, and there's probably been, all in easily 100 people working on this project. Probably for about a year, we built, we designed, we managed this project. We did all the work just like we're having this conversation today on Zoom. And when you think about that, that's insane. We, as a group, not all 100 people, but there's probably about 20 people that were, really the drivers for this. We met at Encompass in March of this year, and it was an interesting meeting because most of us never met before, but we talk on the phone every day, and it was a very interesting dynamic when you put all those people in a room together, and just the interaction, because you think you know them, and you do know them, but you've never actually seen them before. It's hard to explain. And the one thing that, oddly enough, will stick in my mind, we hired a gentleman to be the general manager down there, and the first words out of his mouth to me, and he had only been there like a month, he said, "You're much taller than I thought you would be." And I thought to myself, well, that's interesting. But it's true. I mean, it was a very weird thing. But to be able to do all of this work remotely said a lot about the people that worked on this project. I can tell you that I've never worked with a group of people as dedicated and having their act together than this group of people. I mean, it's unbelievable. And now that COVID is, I don't want to say it's over, but obviously it's not. But since some of the rules are a little more lax, we've certainly had more in-person discussions and meetings and stuff like that. And if you go to the state of Georgia, by the way, COVID just never happened there. So according to them. So and we've had people come down with it in the meantime. But it's worth mentioning that as a huge roadblock and just something you didn't count on. COVID was just a punch in the gut, and I think we came through it, with very good results. So this is kind of the schedule of things that happened. I put this slide in here again, and I put it here just for one particular reason. I just wanted to remind you all, this is a description or the diagram of the workflows that existed at the Woodlands. Obviously, outside of the technology and the engineering piece of building a place like this, workflows are critical. And we've hired people, some of them from the Woodlands, to design SOPs and workflows for this new facility, because we literally started from scratch. We started with a blank piece of paper, just knowing what the end result needed to be. So we went from this to this, and we ended up being able to streamline a lot of what we do here, because we took away all that specialized software that was in existence at the Woodlands. So when you just take a real close or high level look at this, everything we do starts with the programming people at the RSNs. They're actually in the RSNs, and they are entering, obviously, programming information, alternate schedules for these games, the market switching piece, which is how satellite receivers switch, and other fill information, in case there's a rain delay or something like that. So that all goes into wide orbit programming. We contracted with them. Fox/Disney had built their own, a product called VPS, and we weren't interested in keeping that alive, and they weren't interested in selling it to us. So we got with wide orbit and customized, their software to handle some of the workflows that we needed. Over on the left-hand side, down on the bottom, you'll see it I'm sorry. To the right of wide orbit programming, there's this thing called Sync Media. And Sync Media is the software that our internal development people wrote. And there's a lot of components to it. A lot of it has to do with market switching, and SCUDdy is in there. There's a lot of connectivity to the Cinemedia control system to steer these IRDs is in there. And then Crystal components below is we use Crystal to generate our SCUDdy messaging, as well as manage the satellite IRD switching, which is down on the lower left-hand corner down there. You know, the rest of this, there's scheduling, master controls, like just one little box on the right-hand side there, but there's a lot going on there. And then there's the VAN, the SVN, the fiber network down in the bottom there. So, you know, these are the big pieces that, you know, that exist for us today. This is it. I mean, I don't want to minimize it because there's a lot going on here, but this is essentially what we're doing workflow wise and technology wise to support this operation. I don't know where those little red lines just came from. So this, by the way, is where we started with Diversified from a block diagram perspective. There are 51 pages of block diagrams here. I don't think we want to go through them all. If anybody does, speak up and we can. But this is the first page of them here. You know, on the left side, we can see all the feeds coming in, whether they're file-based or whether they're live from either a venue or a studio. There's you can see the 52 channels of Versio play out in the center, all the control stuff sitting on top of it from mostly from Imagine. There's some Telestream stuff in there, compliance recording. We use Qlogen for that. And there's about 600 terabytes of SAN storage in the building for play out and for recording. And there's, I'm trying to look at this. Yeah, I mean, some of these numbers have changed around a little bit. There's supervisor pods. There's really 4 of those. There's, you know, the numbers aren't really that important, but the concepts are still the same here. So these are the major pieces, and you know, as far as the block diagram is concerned, these are the big pieces of it. I can click on this. No, you don't want to see that. We're going too far ahead. Hold on a minute. Let me go back to where I was here. Sorry about that. All right, so, oh, Jesus Christ. This is, again, a high-level drawing of what the SVN is, Sinclair Video Network. Essentially, what's happening here, you can start on the bottom because it's a little bit easier. We have these regions, 15 sites, which are the studios for the RSNs. So each of them have 2 Arista switches and some number of Nevion Virtuoso frames with encoders and decoders in them. It was easier for us to buy new equipment to some extent for this, because all the old stuff's in use. So we'll add on the virtuosos because a lot of the regions already have them. We'll add them into the network, probably in the next 3 weeks. In the center of this drawing, there's a venue, the venues, 80 of them. And they basically, even though this is the venues and it shows hardware, these are really in trucks. These are not actually at the venues for the most part. And then there's, we have a DR facility that we're building, network DR facility in Ashburn, Virginia, which will tie, in case something happened in Encompass, all that traffic goes through there. So you'll see there's a red and a blue network that goes to all of these places. And above that, the larger box at the top is what's actually at Encompass with from a networking perspective. And this is only to support this network. This has nothing to do with any of the production network or the out of band stuff. This is all just for this network. The idea is that this cloud on the right hand side, AWS disaster recovery, is we will have cloud playout channels available in case Encompass got hit by a meteor. We would be able to feed that back down to Encompass's facility in Glenbrook, Connecticut, which is their DRRF location, and we would be able to stay on the air to some extent that way. So that's what this is. This hasn't changed a whole lot from this, and we are still in the process of converting some of this hardware, because a lot of this hardware, especially the trucks, was all configured to use on the Disney network, not on this network. So we have to go through and change them all. And we did all the trucks used for baseball, but now hockey and basketball is starting, so we're gonna have to go back and we'll have to do some more. And there's a whole process in place for doing that. We're into the picture part now. So people call this different things. I call it multicast monitoring. There is a before and after picture here, obviously. So this picture was taken this afternoon, actually. So as you can see, during the day when there's server elements playing only, there's not a whole lot going on here. There's a lot of video jukeboxes. This place gets much busier in the evening hours from 4 o'clock on, basically when there's live sporting events. This is one of the 52 pods that, let me correct that, because we built 52 rooms, we only have 40 pods. We can only, right now, we're built out for 40 channels. So, and they're cozy. I can tell you that, but what's happening here obviously is a multi-viewer. There's Imagine soft panel on the right-hand monitor for switching, playlist in the middle, and KVM on the left-hand side. So, again, there's intercom in here, there's a router panel, there's those buttons that there's a red, yellow, and some bunch of green ones. Those are actually used to do this IRD steering. And every single one of these looks just like this. They're all the same. But having said they're all the same, they can also be anything we want them to be. So, they're all routable, they're all, flexible from a multi-viewer perspective. But even though you can do anything in any of them, it's much more efficient just to have them kind of be the same thing all the time. So there are about 15 main channel rooms, and then there's 15 alt channel rooms, and there's others that are just kind of left over for now for ad hoc events. So, and the alt channels are the ones that are used for the games themselves. This is a picture of, on the left-hand side, there's this is the redundant, what we call X transmission system. There's an X system and a Y system. each of them redundant in themselves, but they're also redundant to each other. So this is all encoders, muxes, everything that is required from Cinemedia to make all that work is in these racks. Right, if you follow those yellow cables all the way down that far, that's what this is. This also gives you a view of the HVAC concepts here. This is a cold aisle, hot aisle environment. So this is obviously the cold aisle, and it's cold. There are, looking down this row here, there's 4 more or 3 more just like this. This is the back of the warm aisle, and this is looking down one side of the building. This is duplicated, the size of this. You can see some air conditioning down the other end. Everything, there's both cables on the floor and up above in those yellow trays, fibers above, everything else is below. This, again, is actually, this is, if you walk straight through those doors down the end, you'd end up where the satellite stuff is. All these servers on the left-hand side are the primary Versio playout servers. So there's 52 of them here. So that's what we're seeing here. These are TEM encoders that we use for our digital and OTT platforms. Lumen manages this for us. So these are their encoders. Actually, there's 80 of them. Well, there's 42 channel encoders here. And they're fed from, we actually had to do a 2110 to SDI conversion for these. So there's a bunch of SNPs that are actually managing that. And they just feed into video DAs and feed all this stuff. It's a meet me room concept where there's bulkheads in the back of some of these racks for this. There's another rack not seen here for Yes Network for the Yankees that they do all their own encoding, and we just feed them video for what they're doing, because we'll operate them from here as well, starting on next Tuesday, actually. This, talking about the SVN, the venue network, this is half of it. So there's a red and a blue piece to this. So there's a big giant Palo Alto firewall. There's 3 Dell servers that are on our network for various VM reasons. There's LTN lives inside there. There's a bunch of other stuff that we VM in those servers, and there's 3 more of them on the other side. There's another Palo on the other side, and those boxes with the red stripes on them are Nevion encoders and decoders. So, and then up above is some of the AT&T stuff on the second rack over. All that fiber is. So that's and you see we spared no expense by putting cardboard in the fronts of racks. So not sure what that's all about. This, I just put this in here because this is the level of workmanship that Diversified has brought to the table. Every rack in there looks just like this. So, you know, they did a great job. This, when we cut over on the 16th of September, and even though there's an awful lot of technical difficulty slides up there, when I say cut over, I mean we stopped the operation from the Woodlands and put this facility on the air. So there was a whole lot of routing and other things we needed to do to make that happen. And so this picture was actually taken at about 10 after 5 in the morning when we were doing that. We spread that out over 3 days. So like I said, even though you see all those technical difficulty slides, it's really not that bad. It was there for a very specific reason when we did the cutover. But then this gives you a kind of a bird's eye view of this space. I mean, we see this multicast area in front of us. There's supervisor desks. You see some on the left and some on the right. And then the small rooms are dotted all around the outside there. This is the AC units for, there's another set of these on the other side of the room for the CER only. It's not for the rest of the building, just for equipment. These are the 2.5 megawatt generators outside. These were destined for another customer, and they canceled their order primarily because of COVID, so we were able to snatch them up. I mentioned virtual graphics earlier. This is the room where that will happen. Again, you look at this, there's 16 of these workstations, they're all the same. This is a room that is so originally we had 52 separate little rooms. We took 12 of those rooms and actually did put the walls up and made them these larger rooms, because what happens in the RSN business is the Cincinnati Reds could be airing on 10 different RSNs with 10 different playlists, 10 different commercial spots, all that stuff. So the idea in this room is that the game is the game, basically. The spots are all going to happen at the same time. They're just going to be triggering different playlists. So the idea here is we put 3 people in this room to manage up to 13 different feeds of the same game. And that's what's happening here. That's what these rooms are for. And you can see again the before and the after picture. But and these rooms, if they're not simulcast rooms, they obviously can be used as just a separate pod, separate single room if need be. This space here is what's called the Sinclair TOC. So all the inbound feeds from that Sinclair video network are managed here within this space. Excuse me. So there's 5 seats, there's 5 prisms, there's 5 of everything here. 5 access points for video iPath, and obviously all the monitoring up above. There's another TOC that Encompass has over in the other building, which is monitoring all the satellite uplink, downlink stuff. So these folks here are strictly focused on inbound feeds from studios and from trucks. So when a truck calls up and wants to check in, they're ready to go. These people, go through that process with them, and make that room or make that feed available to whatever room it needs to go to. Excuse me. This supervisor space, we saw a little bit of it earlier. There's, like I said, there's 2 sides to this. And so these supervisors are split up to look out after the rooms that are directly in front of them and either to the left or to the right. So they're responsible for probably 6 or 8 rooms at a time. That's what it looked like when it was getting built on the left-hand side.
Don, can't thank you enough for this. It's very good.
Yeah,
Appreciate
Don,
it.
thank you for your time tonight. We appreciate it.
Of course, my pleasure.
Presentation.
Yep, and
Thanks,
Tom Callahan, see, I wore the shirt just to remind everybody I still live in Rochester. Maybe I'll come back.
Thanks, John.
Yeah.
We'll make sure they know.
Yeah, so, all right, thank you.
Anybody
you.
wants
For
to
the
see any of our past presentations, there is a link on the chapter website. It'll take you to the archived meetings, SBE22.org. And I hope we can see everybody on October 20th. Come on back and join us.
All right, thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you, Don.
Yep, see you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.